right now. Now, that's a fear that may not be true in certain areas because I know there's hiring going on in a lot of sectors because people need to expand and whatnot. But I understand why people are afraid to lose their job because if you turn on the news, that's all you see is unemployment, this, and people are in 8 mile long lanes to get 3 bags of groceries. No one wants to get into that situation. So those that are employed, they want to prove that, hey, I'm a good employee, so they're going to constantly be working even longer than they should be. And we've all seen that the quality of work diminishes the longer you work through the day. The quality, if you're working 12, 14-hour days, unless, there's, and of course everybody's different, but for most people, it's productivity is around 5.5 hours. It might be even a little bit less. So if you're putting in a 14-hour day and your actual productivity skills and time is only 5 hours, okay, you're wasting several hours and not really creating anything other than additional stress for yourself.
Actually, studies proven that it takes 25 minutes to your brain to get from one task to another. So that concept that, oh, I can be multitasking, cooking, talking with a client, and making sure the kids have food is like, it's not working. It's not that you're going to fail in one of the things. You're going to end up failing in all the things because your brain behavioral wise take time to adapt. So the concept of multitasking, A, doesn't work. The distractions and work at home are that I work from home all my life. So to me, cat jumping on the table and being part of a webinar is like, yeah, that's my life. But I can do understand that most people went from I see you tomorrow for lunch to you're not coming work to work. And some companies even says like they're announced publicly even before they talk to the clients or their own employees like, hey, guess what? We close all the offices. You're gonna be working from home. How? Oh, manage how to do it. So on top of the stress that okay, I not used to be 24/7 with my family on top, the kids running around, the pets and everything happen is like nobody's telling you how to do it. In our case, we have spent in the last 3 to 4 months more time training people in how to do trainings at home, how to do the background like the one we have. For example, in my sunroom, you don't know what I'm seeing, but behind is not nice to be seen, but you need to look professional. What kind of microphone? Are the priorities? How to talk with clients? What is the timing? How to send the agendas? How to do the breaker rooms? It's like so much to learn. But one of the things that I think more companies are failing is to tech people and explain them. When you have a crisis, you need a leader. And what happened is more managers are in worse crisis than employee. So when you have somebody to look for that is supposed to be your manager and they didn't have their things together, how are you supposed to get your team together? It's crazy. So everybody's burning, but nobody stop and says, okay, let's put water in this fire, recoup and see how what we're doing. Because the truth we were told like it's gonna be 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 months, and most people says this is gonna take 2 years because the only way to stop this is vaccination, and it's not done yet.
Yeah, and with the vaccination component as well, it's like, okay, let's say we hear an announcement at the end of the summer that they have a vaccination from whomever. It might be from a variety of different pharmaceutical organizations. How quickly are we going to vaccinate 7 billion people? Uh,
Hmm.
there's going to take time to generate the vaccine in mass quantities, and and it's all going to depend on making sure that all the materials that they need to make this vaccine are being produced. So you're going to see, and I agree with you, not to scare people, but this is a long haul type of situation. If the decision is made that we have to keep things at least restricted until we're at zero cases kind of situation. If we don't go that route and we go a different way, then all bets are off on that. But I think for many people, the advent of working from home is going to be something that I think will be a longer term thing. So I love your analogy about, okay, let's put water on this fire and stop everything from burning, and take a step back and look and go, okay, as an organization, what are we supposed to be doing? What do our clients need from us right now? As an employee, what does my employer need me to do right now? You may have 15 things on your to-do list. You can't do all of those. Pick one or two a day that you can potentially accomplish. And if you get them done early, I know there's a lot of desire to, hey, you know what, let's go ahead and just start working on that other stuff. We've lost the ability to pause and take a look and reflect on what we're doing as an organization or as an individual and see where we want to grow. We're just so busy going and going and going that we drive past opportunities that would make things easier for ourselves, our organization, our clients, everybody involved. But we're so busy just doing things, and we don't take the time to just stare at a wall and reflect on things. And we don't build that into our schedules, and we need to, not just from a manager standpoint, employees do too. They can't be quote unquote working for 8 to 10 hours a day. They need some time to pause. Okay, how did that work? Of all the organizations that I've ever worked for, and I've worked for a ton of companies, Fortune 500 to small organizations and everywhere in between, there was only one organization that I worked for that, and they dealt with projects. So they did client work and had big projects, scope, all that good stuff, Gantt charts till you bleed, everything. But it was the only organization that once a project completed, we had an end of project meeting and we determined what went right, what went wrong, what can we do again. And when we do that, we have this opportunity to really be able to look for areas of improvement so we can be more efficient. If we can do something that would normally take 10 days in 7, we just found 3 days. What can we do with those 3 days?
You know what? When you're talking us about what and the police and the military call debriefing, after anything happened, good or bad, you need to get your team and says, okay, this worked, this didn't work. How we do it better? And I don't know if people is going to know how to do that when they're not under the same roof. There's a lot of people who used to be under the same roof and like now we manage that. For example, you live half of the time in the United States and half of the time in Canada, and you still manage your business. I have a house in Chicago and a house in Indiana, and I manage both of them because we have been doing it for a long time. But I have the feeling that even big companies, and it's the same you said, I have companies who has teaching people how to work from home in Latin America, United States. And you know what is the crazy part? Some companies in Latin America has adapt faster and easy to the fact to work from home, and then maybe they're not coming back to work in an office.
In a way, that doesn't surprise me because I think, in my experience with Latin America, is they tend to be able to pivot and navigate through things quicker because just through life experience and some of the challenges that that region of the world sometimes faces, that they can pivot when they need to adjust to whatever circumstances are happening. So it doesn't surprise me to think that that they were a little bit quicker to do the things. In the U.S. and in Canada as well, there were some organizations that have done really well in doing the switch over to virtual, where some organizations they threw in the towel and they said we're just going to close the shop until this thing opens back up. And again, they were thinking, okay, this is going to be a couple of weeks, maybe a month. Okay, if we quarantine everybody 2 months max, well, it's been 3 months now, and depending on where you are in the US, you're looking at a much longer situation. Of course, now we're starting to hear the talk about the second wave, and if anyone understands pandemics, they come in waves. So potentially we might have a second wave that could be really problematic, and there may be tendency to extend the working remotely situation longer. And I get it, it's stressful for some people because personalities is another big thing. If you are an introvert, my better half is introverted, she's loving this. Now she went back to her office this week, but she's been home for a good chunk of time. So she was like, okay, what's the big deal? This is utopia for me. Where for someone like me that I'm used to going out, I'm used to traveling, I'm used to meeting with people and doing things, I've had to be pretty creative as far as making sure that my own mental health was taken care of. And of course, while Zoom calls don't, mimic the same thing as meeting somebody in person, at least being able to talk with other people, I think has helped me quite a bit. And I think for organizations, the mental health aspect of your employees is going to be important. So you need to figure out ways to create opportunities for them to be able to engage with their teammates, not as much on a work project type of situation, but more so in a just, if you're an organization that used to have meetings in the coffee room or a social hour or Friday pizza or whatever the case may be, maybe still do that. Have a Zoom call. I know that's kind of counterintuitive in a way, but you just have a call and say, okay, we're just going to have a happy hour at 4 o'clock on Friday or 3 o'clock, and allow people to do what they want and bring their own beverages and just kind of chat and see how things are doing. In the organization that I'm helping out as a client, one of the things we do is when they do have their team meetings, we don't talk about, okay, what's going on with the organization and things like that. We go around and we ask everybody, how are they doing? What are some things they're doing to keep themselves healthy and mentally stable during these pandemic days? Because it's important for everybody to know that we're all supporting each other, as well as if people are struggling, they can rally around and say, okay, what can we do to help you on that? And I think if anything comes from this pandemic, I certainly hope that communities get a little bit more tighter than they were, because they seem to be pretty much siloed and segmented, even though with the advent of social media, I think society has never been more antisocial than they've been before. And I think this situation with us physically being separated for so long from so many people, once we're able to safely gather again, I think there's going to be a focus, at least in the short term, on the importance of being with people.
It's funny in a good way that when you talk about what are the first, I always call, when a company calls says, okay, we have a crisis, and we have the nickname to be the fixers. And I love it because I saw the Pulp Fiction movie, and somebody put me like, I don't clean blood up. If you kill someone, don't call me. But if you need to fix something in your company, like how simple things on behavior can help your people, what the first thing I says is, people is going to be working from home and they're not used to. So all the money you saving on renting and insurance and all the thing, send a comfortable chair to your employees.
Mm,
Make a deal with the internet company that you have to make sure that your employees have a good internet so they don't get stressed out every time they need to have a meeting. Make once a week a learning lunch or a learning breakfast. Bring somebody who can teach something new to everyone, and send donuts or send coffee. Anything that no group in a meeting is going to be more than 20. It doesn't matter what part of the country you are. It's easy to call Dunkin' Donuts or Pizza Hut or whatever brand you want, and send a pizza and serve the preference beverage. Delivery is one of the things that has grown the more, and give that craving on the person, so feel welcome and feel that you pay attention what their needs are. And another thing is to try to keep engaging people. For the extroverts who need to be engaged with other people, put them in camera open, like get a working body to establish the working body where you can be get accountable with somebody else to work. So we start taking of those simple first aid things to make people feel more comfortable. And you says sending donuts is not going to fix the problem. No, but you're fixing the emotional problem that you still care about me because you're teaching me something new. You keep me in contact. You still make me seem that you see me. The worst you can do to a human being is ignore them. If you ignore them and you don't acknowledge who they are, is the worst way, is the best way to kill emotionally someone. And when their companies are running because they don't know what to do and they don't acknowledge the simple basic needs of the people, they're killing them. They're not seeing them.
yeah, they're treating them like a number and not a human being. And right now, more important than ever, I think employees need to feel that their employer actually cares about their well-being and be as flexible and understanding as possible, because it's a stressful time for everybody. Some people are doing better than others and navigating it, but we've been into this pandemic for about 3 months now. Anyway, I mean, you could argue longer depending on what part of the world you're from. But in the U.S., for example, things started shutting down about the middle of March, and so here we are in the middle of June at the time of this recording. So it's been 90 days, and for a lot of people, they're fatigued, and thankfully from a school standpoint, the school is out for summer. However, that means the kids need other activities, and a lot of places, the day camps or the summer camps have been canceled. So, for many parents, they would send their kids off to summer camp and get a little bit of a reprieve. Not that they're trying to get rid of the kids per se, but just to give the kids some different things to do and all of that. So it's going to be a tough summer for a lot of people. So that's why it's so important that the self-care and the burnout prevention tips are so important right now, because as this gets prolonged, you're going to have situations where people are going to get sick, not just mentally, but potentially physically. And for some, it could be catastrophic to the point where you have to be hospitalized. And the last thing hospitals need right now is more people coming to the hospital for non-COVID-19 situations. It's Many hospitals are overrun with patients, and as we see the numbers continue to spike and go up and down, our healthcare workers are taxed to the extreme as well. And it, we can do our own part to help prevent those people from burning out by making sure that we don't burn out. It's an important step to take for people, and there's ways to do it, but a lot of it boils down to just having firm boundaries around when you work, when you don't, making sure that you take breaks and pause. This is a marathon, not a sprint. So you want to pace yourself in everything you do, and give yourself grace, because this is a new situation for you. This is a new situation for all of us. Many of us have never worked from home before, so we're trying to figure out how to do everything when we don't have access to everything we normally do. So it's taxing for everybody. But I always tell people, don't forget to breathe, and breathe as best you can. And being an asthmatic, breath is pretty important to me. So I make sure that I take really good breaths, and I take care of myself to make sure that I don't have an asthma attack or anything like that. Because again, that could put me in the urgent care or emergency room, and I don't want to go near that place.
No, nobody
But
wants.
no one wants to, and on a good day, much less during a pandemic.
You know what? Before we go to simple examples where we can help people, is like I want to bring what happened in Florida. My brother and part of my family is living in Florida, and he sent me a note saying, says a week after Florida opens, they need to close again because the number of cases speak. In Calabasas, California, happened the same. In India, half of the population is sick, and they don't know what else to do. So what it was supposed to be a couple of months, like some people open really fast, and now we haven't the numbers higher. So I think we're going to go to a completely lockdown. So you're going to need to learn patience and look for ways to pace. Susan Young is saying, my son got noise cancellation headphones for his employers. Those are the caveats. And for the people who I receive a text like, you look distracted, because we have the Facebook book live, and we have messages there, messages here. So I'm trying to please everyone. My apologies if I distract you. But those are the things like, oh, you send me noise cancellation headphones is because I'm going to have a lot of noise around me. Those are the little caveats people can do. Now, one of the reasons that we start talking about burnout is because you told me your story, and it's not my story to tell. But one of the things that struck me is how you find out that you was burned out. Because I've been talking with friends and says, do you know that you should talk to your doctor? Because beside to be the seasonal depression that happens when it's darker and you're not going out, you're not taking enough sun, is for working on dark rooms. It's another one that most people is getting addicted, getting antidepressant, getting alcohol problem abuse, domestic abuse, divorce, that even though they're going through that, they're not aware they're burning out. How you find out and how you will help other people to make a checklist and like, I'm burning out or just stress from regular work.
Mhm. Yeah, burnout is, you have five common traits of burnout, and eh, typically they are, the signs of them are: one, in no particular order, you start making more mistakes. You used to be pretty accurate at things you're doing, but you're kind of out of your mind sometimes, and you keep making mistakes. Another sign is being irritable, and that was a sign that I should have paid attention to while I was burning out. Was I was very short with people, not just my family, but coworkers and people, and they recognized it. Everyone knew that I was burned out except me. I was the last person to get the memo, but it was pretty traumatic. Um,
I'm sorry, Michael. Do you think it has to do with your personality because of your gender? Because men is not allowed, most men are not allowed to say, oh, I'm depressed, oh, I'm doing bad, oh, I need help, oh, I'm burning out. I'm supposed to be the alpha male of the family, so I'm not allowed to say I need help, or I'm tired, or I cannot make it.
Yeah, I've seen it actually in both genders, but it tends to be type A personalities, and they look at burnout as a failure. And it's not. It's just the outcome of several choices and behaviors that have led you to that burned out state. But as far as a mix of the people that I've worked with, it's been about a 50-50 split. And but I do see some common traits in it, and most of them are, again, type A personalities that are very driven and want to be the best, and they don't want to fail. And that could be from just they've always been that way. They may have been raised that way. It could be a past trauma. Maybe their parents were extra stern with them and demanded excellence and wouldn't allow anything but excellence. So failure was viewed upon as horrible. So people don't want to fail.
Do you think
So
that
they
people see burned out as a failure?
A lot of people do. Yeah, that's why a lot of them won't admit to it, and a lot of people won't get the help that they need because they look at it as being a failure, and it's not. It's a case of, just like you need help with anything, learning how to do a new skill or learning how to cook a new dish or anything like that. There's resources out there that can teach you those things. It's the same thing with your own health. If you're not feeling well, let's say you've got a cough or a cold, and this of course is before COVID-19, you would likely go into your healthcare provider and say, look, I've been feeling bad for about 10 days and my throat's sore and cough and cold and all that stuff. And they would either give you a prescription for something or give you at least a prescription for rest or forcing liquids or whatnot. So people do that without any concern. Most people, anyway. I know some people don't go to the doctor at all costs, but most people will go to address it. But with burnout, it's one of those things where a lot of people think, well, I can get through this because I've been successful and I can get through this. But again, there's so many patterns and thoughts that have led to this situation that for many people, it is a deep, dark hole that is very hard to dig yourself out of, unless you do some really, personal, non-judgmental work within in order to be able to address those things. So that's a great question when it comes to that. Uh, Sleep is a big thing, and even when I was burned out, I was still quote unquote sleeping between 7 and 8 hours a day, but it wasn't restful sleep. And what
Yeah, I
happens?
would like to make a quote about that because I had a sleeping problem. My brain never stopped. So even before this happened, I was working like 20 hours a day and sleeping only 4 hours. And to me was okay until I like finally my body gave up. So I talked to the doctor and she gave me meds to help me to sleep. And I wasn't aware how much. Actually, it's not that I'm sleeping way more than I was sleeping before. The rhythm of sleeping is different because the helping aids that she gave me is allowing my brain to ease.
Mhm.
So now maybe I sleep in 6 hours, but I feel better than when I sleep 12 without help. And for me, like you says, I'm a type A personality. I'm like, hey, dude, I'm a human polygraph. I'm a human behavior hacker. I don't need help. And one point, one of my friends says, you start letting things go through, like forgetting appointments, something going on. I'm like, well, actually, I don't remember being sleeping really well. And I talked to my doctor and says, it's not how many hours you sleep, it's how good you sleep.
Mhm.
And for the last 4 months that I've been taking meds to sleep, then at some point I'm gonna leave it or not. I don't know if they're helping me. I've been more productive, and I see, even in my skin, I see it different
Hmm.
because I rest, my brain rests. And when I wake up, I jump from the bed. Before it was like, okay, one left foot first. Let's get the second one. Let's go to bed. Okay, let's check emails on the bed. Oh my God, I can't believe that I need to wake up. So I wasn't aware how important is the sleep part. I was eating healthy, taking my meds. I was exercising, but sleeping wasn't something that I get in my radar. So it's good that you bring it on topic.
Yeah, it's important because what happens is we can live, and like here's a great example. You can live the healthiest life. You can be active. You can eat the right foods for you. Control your inputs as far as what type of media you consume, so you're not watching the news and hearing all the doom and gloom in the world. You're doing things and you're working on things that you enjoy doing, so it doesn't feel like work for you. And that's great that you can do all that. But if you're not getting restful sleep, your body's not getting an opportunity to repair the damage that we do to ourselves on a daily basis. And like I said, you lived healthy, but you're still doing damage to your body no matter what, because of environment, lighting, temperature differences, the food you eat. All these things, they take a toll. So when you sleep and you sleep well and you get that correct amount of sleep for your body, it gives your body the opportunity to heal that damage. So the next day you wake up, you're refreshed. Why do you feel refreshed? Because your body has repaired the trauma that we've thrown at it from the day before. Now, if you're not sleeping well and this starts building up over time, then you start having other challenges. Like in my situation was clogged arteries. And there was a lot of factors that led into that situation. But sleep was definitely one of them because my body wasn't allowed to repair, because the body is a magnificent machine. We have, with everything right, we have the ability to repair ourselves. And I'm not going to go into all the dynamics of that, but we can fix a lot of the ailments that we have internally without adding any additional medicines or things like that. Just simple good rest and proper nutrition and being active. You get those three things right, your life is going to be a lot easier to live than if you're not doing those things. So if you're missing out on any of those components, you need to get those introduced in your life and figure out how to make it a part of your routine so you don't have to think about it.
Michael, I want to start going to like start narrow the funnel and like, okay, you start feeling you're burned out. What was the first signal to make you ask for help?
Well,
What
for
are
me,
the points
with
and how you need to follow from there? Because as you have the experience not only happening to you, helping others, I'm sure there are a lot of people out there that are not aware this happening. Maybe this webinar is gonna is always sometimes happen with webinars like this that I see more people seeing after, but because like, oh my God, you need to see that, you're gonna feel so reflected on that. So I'm gonna start narrowing to the point where, okay, what are the bullet points to start taking care of and maybe be paying attention?
well, the things that you have to watch out for is those signs that I mentioned before. If you're irritable, you're making mistakes, you're not resting well, and you're noticing all kinds of different things that are just not yourself. If you stop doing things that you enjoy, and that was a huge red flag as well. If there are things that you like doing, like going to the movies or going to sporting events or concerts or things like that, and stuff that you normally do, if you stop doing those just out of the blue because you're too tired or you don't have enough time, that's a big warning sign. So what you need to do, and this is an exercise that I have people do all the time when I speak at events or I'm working with teams, is I call it the bucket list. And what I do is I have people take a sheet of paper and draw a line down the middle of the page, a vertical line. And on the left side, I have people list all the things that they like to do and they enjoy in life, whether it's, like I said, going to a concert, going to the movies, going to their favorite coffee shop, whatever the case may be. And be as robust on that list as you can. And then once you're done with that list, on the right side of that, write down the last time you did those things. And all the time, every time I say this in an event or working with teams, I tend to hear people moaning and groaning because they realize that they haven't done things that they enjoy in life in a long time. And I ask them why. And of course, the common answer is I don't have time. And I tell people everybody gets the same 24 hours a day. It's how you choose to live your life. and you have that choice. You control it. And you have to make sure that you're doing things that you enjoy in life. You have to, because if you don't, then what's the point? If you're if you're just working and you don't enjoy your work, you have no joy in your life, and of course that gets your mental challenges increasing, and you start running into some problems. So if you're not doing things you enjoy in life, you're tired, you're fatigued, you're not feeling well. Your nutrition choices are a brown bag that you get when you talk through a speaker and you drive around the corner and they hand it to you instead of eating, real food. If that's your typical diet for breakfast, lunch, and dinner all the time, it's gonna take a toll on you, and you need to impact that. So getting restful sleep is crucial. Eating healthier. I'm not telling you to eat just all kale salads and all that stuff. Find out what works for you. What Because everyone's different. Everyone has food intolerances. There's some foods that are better for you than others. Work with nutritionists and figure out what those are, and that way you're getting the natural energy you need from the food that you eat, and it makes a big, big difference. Being active, even if it's just walking more than you did before. Everybody has a smartphone, and most of them have some type of a fitness tracking situation. Just be a little bit more active, and you have to have boundaries in your life and prioritize your self-care and your mind first. You got to take care of you first. And again, that's a big problem I see with the type A personalities. Coupled with that is being a people pleaser. And I'm guilty as charged when it came to that. I was the biggest people pleaser in the world. I use this phrase with my mom a lot, who is probably the matriarch for people pleasing. And I said, Mom, you got to quit cutting off your feet to give somebody your shoes. And she would give of herself, but she to her, her own detriment. It's like, you can't do that. You have to take care of yourself first. Then, when you do have the capacity to give, they're getting a better version of you. They're getting a better version of what you're giving. So you have to take care of yourself first. And going back to that bucket list thing, every week do 2 or 3 things that you love to do. Because the list that I see, and people send me their list, majority of the stuff that's on there, they can do in maybe 20 minutes or half an hour and probably costs less than $20. It's not like these world cruises and going on trips and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, we're not talking about getting a Ferrari. We're talking about simple things that
Yeah.
I sometimes, when people do bucket list, is the desire, and it's between the desire and an option to do it. And sometimes the only problem between your bucket list and what you're doing it is yourself. I
Mm-hmm.
found out that people, the worst enemy you can have is yourself,
Oh,
because you're
yeah.
the difference between doing it and not doing it.
Yeah.
Sometimes we blame out my partner, my kids. Like, for example, you talk about walking. It's funny because one of the members of our team was here with me for 2 weeks. We do the high training between internally. And she was laughing because when I take calls, I take video calls and phone calls in the middle. And when I take calls, I put my headphones and I walk, because not call is going to be less than 20 minutes. So what I do is I pace myself. So I walk around the house when I know that I have good internet, but I walk, keep walking. So at the end of the day, I found out that when I walk, my brain get endorphins. I have serotonin, oxytocin. I have all the hormones needed to wake up. So when I need to jump to a video call because I did my phone call walking, actually I feel better. And those are the things that nobody taught me. Naturally, I have the feeling that I need to move when I'm talking. Not only help me to concentrate, I noticed that for the next call, I'm really up and present because while my body was moving. And another thing, when you have pain on your joints at our age, they were young vintage people, when you don't move, your body hurts more. So if you start moving and walking in your house when you're walking, your joints start lubricating and you have less pain. Some people do not exercise because they feel pain. Actually, exercising taking the pain away. Just walk inside your house.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm a natural pacer, so for me, it's
You do
not
the
an
same?
issue. Yeah, I do the same, especially if it's a phone call. I move around. If I'm in a session like this, then I make sure that I adjust myself and move up and down a little bit, just to make sure that my joints don't get stiff. But I definitely get up and I walk. After a session like this, I'll be walking my dog when we're done. So I'll be outside and getting some outside air, and the dog will sniff every tree and every blade of grass he can find. So that's usually how it works with him. But again, it's just being active and taking advantage of what works for you is crucial, and even having the courage to ask trusted advisors, whether they're loved ones or close friends, and ask them, have I been acting different lately? And give them the permission that you won't get mad at them. And they'll usually tell you, yes. In my situation, after my burnout situation, I would talk to people, and they said, how long was I burned out for? And they said, it's been a couple of years. And I asked them, so why didn't you tell me? And they said, we did. You didn't listen to us. See, that's one big thing that comes up often with people that are burned out is they can't necessarily hear from people that there's an issue going on, and they're like, I'm just going to get through this, I'll be fine. No, you won't. You don't
So
want
it
to
doesn't matter how
add
many
burnout
people
to the
tell you.
mix.
You need it's like the coin need to get in your head, not in somebody else. You need to be aware. So how you become aware, Michael, when you're burned out, everybody's telling you, but you don't pay attention. It's like an addict.
Yep.
Everybody can tell you throwing your life on the cliff, but they don't pay attention. Burnout is the same. It's like this cycle that never stop.
Yeah.
Your heart attack was your stop, or you was aware before that happened, or
Well,
after. I don't know if your heart attack
yeah,
was the
yeah,
wake up call.
yeah. Well, the heart attack was definitely a wake up call because when you're laying on the table about to get two stents installed into your left anterior descending artery, and the
Oh my
cardiologist
God.
tells you, and for those people that are not familiar, the left anterior descending artery has a nickname. It's called the widowmaker, because usually if you have a heart attack with blockages in those arteries, you die. Now, I'm not talking to you from another world. I'm on planet Earth just like you are. I'm alive, and I'm doing well. But my cardiologist who performed the surgery told me, so you are a very, very lucky individual, because my blockages were, there's two blockages in that artery. One part was 60% blocked and the other part was 90.
At the
And
age of 40.
at the age of 40,
Holy cow.
uh, yeah, so, and that was because of poor nutrition, lack of sleep, lack of boundaries, uncontrolled stress, all the ingredients we've been talking about today. I had all of those things going on, and it created a really, really bad situation for me. And I'll go real quick into what happened. I refer to it as my year of worst case scenarios. So from May 2009 until May of 2010, I had a heart attack that should have killed me. And then after recovering from that, I lost my job. And then several months after that, my car was repossessed. And then finally, my home was foreclosed, all in 369 days. So that is a year of worst case scenarios. People don't want to have a heart attack. That's scary. Losing their job during the economic recession, if you remember, the 2008, 2009, 2010
Mhm.
in the United States was the economic recession. And I was outside of Detroit. And if you remember, the auto sector was about 5 seconds away from completely going away forever, unless the government bailed them out. So you have that. You lose your job during that situation. No one was hiring because the economy was in the dumper, and no one was hiring. It ended up requiring me to relocate to Toronto, where there was work. And then finally, because you haven't been working for a long time and your unemployment goes for food and the $1,000 a month for the health care or the drugs that I was taking, because I wasn't employed. So I had no drug coverage, no insurance. So factor all that in, you can't pay your bills. Of course, when you don't pay your bills, the bank reserves the right to take back what they loaned you money for, which is what they did with the car and with the home. And I don't blame them for that at all. I did not live up to my bargain or my part in the negotiations in that particular matter. So think about that. All of those losses are all on their own pretty significant situations. They all happen to me in a year. And I realized that my burnout created those scenarios. So I had a choice. One, I could have said, I went through all that and I survived it all, so I'm Superman, so I'm not going to change a thing. Or option B could have been, I'm going to blame everybody for doing this to me. I'm going to blame the employer for getting me fired. I'm going to blame the fast food companies for feeding me the bad diet that I was eating. I'm going to blame, the banks for taking away my stuff. But I didn't choose that one. I chose option C, which was I need to stop, I need to pause, and I need to do some really deep work on who I am, why I think the way I think, why are my behaviors the way they are, what am I trying to accomplish, why do I want to accomplish that, what's important to me, why is it important to me, and see what I need to do. And that took time. I did deep work. I did not work with an advisor so much. I did have people in my life that would guide me on some things, but I didn't hire a coach. I didn't have a therapist or anything like that, which prolonged the recovery time a bit. But I was able to do the work, and I did it, and I figured out how to live my life burnout free, and I've never been burned out since. Do I know what the signs are? Of course. Do I sense them happening from time to time? Of course. And I have, thankfully, I have control my life and I can control my schedule so I don't burn out again. I make sure that I take care of myself from a nutrition standpoint, activity, sleep. And, one thing that we haven't even talked about is I highly recommend people have a food journal.
Yeah, it's about to ask you that. You have an energy and food journal. So you manage when your energy is changed, you check your food and you rebalance yourself. You're in completely control of your own pace. You take control of your life basically with those
Yeah,
things too.
yeah, it's important. It's your life. You are the boss of your life. You are the captain of the ship. It's your ship, and how you drive it is going to impact how you feel both now, next 5 years, next 10 years, next 20, 30, 40 years. And, I don't tell people to do this because you want to make sure you live long enough to see your grandkids. And if that's your prerogative, then great. But taking care of yourself means a better quality of life for you. It means when you're going through a pandemic, for example, stress is going to be there, but it's going to be at a much lower rate than what so many people are facing right now. It's just prioritization of what you do in your life and what's important to you is crucial. I can't tell you not to watch so many hours of Netflix or do this. If that's something that brings you joy and happiness and makes you happy and keeps your stress at bay, then by all means do it. But you got to figure out what those things are. And having a food and energy journal will give you insights as to if there's some foods or dietary choices you're making that's impacting your energy levels and also how you're feeling, your mood, and all of that. When you do that, again, you take back control of your life, and then you realize, okay, I can't eat this, even though I love to. When I do, it makes me feel horrible for the next day or 2 days. Do you want to feel horrible for the next 2 days? No. Well, then you know what? Don't eat that. I know it's disappointing because there are foods that I love, but I don't eat them because I know what it does to me, so I don't eat them anymore. And it's just a case of you want to be feeling the best you can. You want your mind to be clear and open and take in all the good things that are in life. And there's still great things going on in this world. I know the pandemic and lockdowns and things like that, it's a tough go for many people, but there's still good things going on in this world and in your life and in your neighborhood and in your family. So flock to those, look to those things and focus on those. The negative stuff, if you want to look for negativity, you won't have to look hard, but quit looking for negativity. Really control the inputs in your life, not just your food, but what you consume, from a media standpoint and from toxic people in your life and toxic bosses and all these things. You have a choice in that. You don't have to do that. There's
I
ways
was about
around
to
it.
tell you, most people when they talk about healthy diet, when people says what is a healthy diet, people, food, and activity, like what do you mean people? Like, yeah, some people is more toxic than any drugs and any food and anything else that you can do. And for my birthday, one of the things that I do is I erase people from my Facebook, from my LinkedIn. I eliminate people, and people says, "And you too harsh." Like, no, I'm preserving myself. It's the difference between being a bad person and preserving myself, and
Exactly.
get rid of the people who's toxic in your life and the relationship are not equal. Those like kind of relations that you feel like you always giving and you never receiving, or you're the phone call away only when they need something. you need to review relationship too, but because those are people that sometimes want you, and that's a vicious cycle because they can take advantage of you.
Yeah, yeah, I've seen it too often in my own life and the lives of so many people. It's key to have boundaries to protect yourself and say, I will not tolerate this type of behavior or this type of situation or answering emails from my boss at 11 p.m. on a Saturday night or anything like that. It's like you have to establish these boundaries and know that if you don't have them now and you establish them, there is going to be a little bit of fight back from some people that would normally be able to get access to you or get you to do things you want to do. They're going to be resistant and might even resort to name calling or a variety of other things. So you have to be prepared for that and hold firm on those things. From a work standpoint, make sure you talk with your boss and explain the reasons why you're doing this. And if they aren't being flexible with that and still expect you to do that, then uh, it's one of those things I highly recommend people update resume.doc and find organizations that don't do that because they exist. I know many of them that do. And as this working remotely thing continues to shape up, I'm hoping that more organizations will be flexible with the work that people do and not as rigid and micromanaging as we're hearing in the news and what we're seeing with a lot of the stats that we're seeing today.
We start having private questions, and I can kind of understand why they're private. One of them is, since the pandemic, we put our small apartment on the city for sales, and we moved to the suburbs. And actually, we have a better life than before. So the bad
Yes.
news was a good news for us. Another one says, actually, my burnout is my boss. How I tell him that he's the reason of my problems and on my work. Who that is a this is a heavy one.
Yeah, that one is a difficult one, and it all boils down to if you've been able to have open conversations with your boss in the past, and sometimes it could be a situation where the boss is burned out and it's just flowing downstream and impacting all the employees. If that's their natural demeanor, then yeah, it's a tough situation, and oftentimes it does require looking for something else, another role somewhere. And I know for many people, and I've heard all of the reasons why that's challenging. One, they can't afford a pay cut because their mortgage payment is this, and all those things. I've heard all of them, and I completely acknowledge them and understand them because I've been in that situation myself before. But the thing is start having a conversation. I wouldn't don't be accusational. Just say okay, share some things and see what the reaction is. And if it's a situation where you don't think the boss is going to be able to adjust how they are behaving, and you don't think that they're going to change their ways, then that's a decision on you to say, okay, can I be comfortable staying in this organization any longer dealing with this type of situation? Am I okay with that? Because again, it boils down to you have to take care of yourself first. And it doesn't matter how convenient the place is or how short the commute is or the pay or anything like that. If it's impacting your mental health and your physical health, you're running with scissors, and it could really be problematic. And in my situation, again, I'm not going to blame my employer, but the work pace that I was being expected to do definitely had a contribution in my health issues that led up to my heart attack. And if I had to do it all over again, I would have established those boundaries from day one, saying, no, I'm not going to be checking emails from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m. 7 days a week because I was getting them at that time. I'm not going to mention names, but certain individuals would be emailing me with work to do at all those hours, and I should have said, these are my hours that I work. This is what we contractually agreed upon. This is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to give you the best work I can do during those hours. But after that, I'm going to live my life. And it's, again, a difficult conversation, but I want to jump back really quick to the other question or comment regarding, they've sold their, city apartment and they've moved out into the suburbs and they're happier. It's one of the positive things that I really hope that will stick out from this pandemic is if there isn't a requirement for people to go into offices, then they don't need to live so close to where the office is. They can actually work from wherever. I'm in Toronto right now. You're in Indiana right now, and we're having a conversation. People from all over the
Yeah, and by
place
the way,
is
all my
watching it.
team is around different continents, even time zones, and we have
Yeah.
been that way since the beginning. For us, never was a problem, and it's possible to do. It's about organizing and being open about the timings and
Mhm.
we have different time zones, like huge time zones, but we always manage it.
Yeah, yeah. Before I was on this call, I had a podcast interview with somebody, and she was in the Czech Republic, and completely different time zone, different country. But we had the conversation, we did the interview as if we were across the table from each other, and uh, so that with again people not having to go into a physical workplace as much, and maybe not ever again, at least not all the time, it gives people that opportunity to live in a place that is more affordable, has more room, is more relaxing. You start adding those ingredients to your life. It's like look for areas where you have stress in your life and see what you can do to reduce the stress in those particular areas one by one. And then what happens is then all of a sudden you have a more harmonious life and you enjoy living where you live. I know you and I've had that conversation before about Chicago versus where you're at in Indiana. And I can tell, based on what you're saying, you certainly love where you are in Indiana, other than a pesky neighbor, than you know than where you were in Chicago because it's just
Yeah,
a
and I still
different
go to
pace.
Chicago, and I love Chicago, and I keep a flat in Chicago in the office. But I was tired to see my naked neighbor next door, like because we have 4 foot away. And don't get me wrong, my house was like I was like designed. My coffee machine came from Italy. The stones from the fireplace were came from Greece. Like I put a lot of effort and money in the condo. What I didn't realize, I'm gonna be 4 feet away to my neighbor, who she's in the 20s and doesn't believe in waxing curtains or privacy. So her
Yeah.
bedroom was just next to my office and get to a point like, I cannot take it anymore.
Hmm.
It was so
Yeah.
simple. It was too much.
Yeah. You have to close your blinds. It could be one of those rare sunny days in Chicago, and you got to close your blinds when you have a client in there because you want them to pay attention to you and not the neighbor.
Yeah, so those are the things that like I love Chicago and I go to Chicago. I have tickets for the symphony opera, go to visit my friends. Actually, I have better quality time with my friends since I moved here to the forest since when I was in the city, because I was in the city, I said, oh, I see you later. I see you later, and I never see you. So now when I drive into the city, then it's only like 35 minutes. Is I send an email or a message in my private Facebook or text message saying, hey, these days are going to be, I'm not going to do dinner or lunch or breakfast with any client. I'm going to do it with my friends and actually have better quality time. I see more friends than I see before. When I with them, I'm super present because I know that I have to treasure those moments that I have with them. Because where I live, and another thing, since I live in on the countryside and have so many guest bedroom, I have friends coming. Actually, everybody have a key on my house. I shouldn't say, but I put a keypad, so I have friends like, hey, I got to drop in your house on Saturday. Don't worry. We're going to get the kayak. We're going to go to the beach. I see you at night. Like, okay, great.
That's awesome. No, you figured it out. You figured out by doing that, it's lowered your stress level and it's improved your quality of life. And you're able to do the same work and probably better work because you've created that scenario.
I never been so productive in my life. I still need to realize that I have one person in my team that if I don't mistake it, she's on the meeting. Like, yeah, she's on the meeting still. That I only call her on the weekends when I have a good news. If it's not, I pause myself to write emails and programmed to be out on Monday. I need to take it out of my head, but now you can program your email, so you don't need to be bothering your people. So, Michael, we are rich more than the time than I expected to have you online. Can you give us 5 tips that people can need to pay attention and can do? Because there's so many realities that we cannot standardize, but I'm sure
Yeah.
there are 5 things that you can tell that from
Oh,
your
sure.
own experience
Yeah.
then can be applied in the next 10 days, that they can be baby steps, because people think that they need to be like, oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
180-degree, like no, like everything, every habit and things need to get step until you incorporate. Can you give us 5?
Oh, definitely. The number one thing, if you don't remember anything from our conversation today, it's crucial for you to have boundaries in your life. So establish boundaries with your work and with your personal life. And and talk with people, explain to them why you need to do this, because you want to be a better version of you for them. And by you having these boundaries in your life, it's going to be crucial. It's crucial too for many of us because we're working from home. You need to have a set start and set end to your workday. You have to not just not stop working until you crash into your bed. You need to have time between when you finish working, some leisure time, rest time, and then sleep time, because otherwise you're just constantly going and you're definitely going to be inviting burnout in your life. You need to keep track of the number of interruptions that you have in your day, and that's crucial because we get interrupted a lot, and you need to figure out ways to have some deep work times, because when you are allowed to deep work, as Susan said before, it takes our brain 25 minutes to get back on things. Well, if you're interrupted, twice in an hour, well, you've lost that hour and you're not any further along in your work. So keep track of your interruptions and figure out ways to design some deep work things, and maybe it's the soundproof earbuds or something like that, and just to make sure that you can do the focus thing on there. And one of the last things that you do, and this ties in with the interruptions, we all have smartphones. Turn off the interruption, or excuse me, turn off the notifications that you have on your phone, other than text messaging, the phone, and if your employer has a specialized app that they use for project work that you do, leave that notification out as well. But as far as everything else, the Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, whatever you got, turn the notifications off on that, because our brain, when we see that little red dot on the app, we have this desire, I have to go address that. And if you keep doing that, you're spending hours and hours on your smartphone instead of doing the deep work that you need to be doing. So you'd have more time to just enjoy your life and spend time with your loved ones or yourself. That's a big takeaway. It's just, turn off those notifications. You don't need to know that you've got 16 Facebook messages. You can deal with those later. Schedule that when you do that, because if we keep scattering ourselves and all the things that we do, that puts wear and tear and stress on us, and over a prolonged period of time, then you end up having burnout. And I don't want anybody having two stents in their artery. I'm thankful I have mine because I'm still alive, but I'd much rather not have them in there. So hopefully you've learned some things from our conversation today. And Susan, I appreciate the time today.
From the personal standpoint, something that I learned when I started working from home is we moved online 4 years ago. So for us, video call was all the time. And the first 6 months we did it, I realized that I was out of energy. So one piece of advice is do one video, one call, one video, one call. And if you suddenly you have 4 video calls during the day, block that day and tell your clients or people to go another day. In my case, in my business calendar, the Fridays are blocked. Why? Because it's to talk to certain people, to recharge, to read, to write articles, to connect, to do material for other people that I need to be doing. Then I collaborate with other people. Like I see Susan Young. When I have time, sorry, Susan, I've been really delayed with you. Collaborate, or I have a column in different magazines, and I realize if I don't take one day off of my calendar, people is gonna book it, and I'm gonna reply to that booking instead to cancel it. So if you're working for yourself, get one day a week where you have time to think, even though if it take you 3 hours to think a right email to write, that's the time that you need. I was listening to a Seth Godin, the guru in marketing. He's somebody asking how long it take you to write a blog, 10 hours. And he says, what? Because I spent 9 hours, 45 minutes thinking about the right things to write in 15 minutes. But that's what made me successful. And we are losing the time to reflect on what the things that we're going to put outside.
Yep. Yeah, we're too busy doing things and not enough time planning and preparing. And just think about, you said you go to the symphony and you go to, plays and whatnot. Okay, you go to a symphony, the performance lasts a few hours, not too long. But how long did they prepare to perform that?
People doesn't have an idea to a concert in 45 minutes can take, I don't know, 4 months to get ready.
Exactly. So it's it's imperative that you spend time on the development and the deep work on that. So when you actually perform the work, you can do it efficiently and right the first time, and stress free. And if you go through life that way and you design your life to live that way, then you avoid burnout and you can keep burnout at bay. And that's my hope for everybody, is that they don't experience burnout. It's I would much rather be talking about something else, but I know this is a huge issue for people, and it doesn't have to be that way. So I hope that everyone found value and some tidbits that they can implement right away to help ease the stress and the burnout that they're facing in their life.
Michael, actually, you and I, we met through when I was a guest on your podcast. So why don't you tell us, even though it was during the registration, the name of your podcast and how people can contact you?
Sure. The name of the show is The Breakfast Leadership Show. It's available on all the major podcast platforms, iTunes and Spotify and iHeartRadio and a variety of other places. And best way to find me, you can go to breakfastleadership.com. On social media, it's Be Fast Leadership. Don't put that on a license plate, people, because that will get you in trouble with the police. So you don't want that in your car. And also, too, when I talked about that bucket list situation, if someone wants a free template, there's no cost to it. Just go to breakfastleadership.com/bucket, and you can send me some information, and I'll email you that template right away. And it's a great way for you to focus on the things you really enjoy in life and start scheduling those things. It makes a big difference in my life to do the things that I enjoy doing. Even during a pandemic, there's still things that I get to do, and I make it a point to do them every day and every week, and it makes life so much fuller when you can do the things that you enjoy doing.
And I promise Fridays that are my days. I have a couple intros to do to you. Michael, thank you very much.
Thank you, Susan. Thank you, everybody.
Bye, everyone. See you next Wednesday. Bye.